Sometimes we have a game that pops up online that has the pitch and the teaser trailer that sounds impossible, like almost too good to be true. And that happened again very recently with a game that keeps showing things off in trailers and not only looks like it is way too much for any one studio or even company to handle, but also is causing quite a stir online because it looks like it's copying or just ripping off a bunch of different games. And this has caused a lot of discussion and noise online. But I want to take a look at a game called Ananta because I don't even know what I'm seeing right now with this thing because it looks, again, too good to be true with all the stuff they're tying together here. And we'll go over that here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. So over the last few days, there's just been more and more information getting out there around this game with trailers popping up all over the place and garnering millions and millions of views and interactions to the point now where there's more than 10 million people who have pre-registered for this game. And what this is in a nutshell is sort of like the anime meets Grand Theft Auto. They had already kind of pitched that idea in an initial teaser trailer to introduce it. And since then, we've got like 20 some odd minutes of quick cuts of gameplay. Now, this game is being developed by a studio called Naked Rain, and they're paired with NetEase. And so Naked Rain is like a subsidiary of another company within NetEase. It's like all over the place for who exactly is making this game. And even looking at Naked Rain, I didn't really see anything that they were like massive they're credited to. Certainly nothing of this size, this apparent size for Ananta. And right now it's targeted for PC, Windows, PlayStation 5, Android, iOS. And it's a free-to-play game that originally people were thinking would be a gacha-based game. So the idea being you get characters through kind of dressed up loot boxes or other items or cosmetics and stuff. However, it's now been updated online that it's not going to be a gacha game for characters and stuff that you can just earn completely in-game. And they're most going to lean into monetization to focus on cosmetics. So think of things for vehicles, skins, outfits. I'm sure they'll probably have it so you have an apartment that you can dress up and decorate and stuff. There's a lot of ways that they can monetize this through cosmetics. I think by now we've seen enough free-to-play games to where we realize there are hundreds of different outlets they can go through to try to get you to put more money in, especially when it comes down to comparing your character to other people's characters and stuff. Like, it just kind of works that way through a competitive nature, even on the monetization side for cosmetics. All right, we get all of that. But when they started showing the game off, I'm not really even sure what this game is necessarily, because while I do view it as an anime Grand Theft Auto style game, they kept showing more and more stuff, to the point where we're comparing it to things like Spider-Man. People are comparing it to Yakuza. People are comparing it to Batman, Uncharted. I mean, the list just keeps going with all the stuff in this game. It looks like 8 or 9 big AAA style games mashed together in this collage of gameplay in some of these trailers. The quality looks good in most of it. There are some times where, they cut some corners here or there for some of the animations or interactions or stuff, but for the most part, it does look very, very high quality for a game that is going for a scope like this. But as they've released more and more gameplay, people have noticed something. It seems awfully close to certain Sony games. That's what I've really seen being thrown around. Some people have mentioned some other things that I don't think are as, like, someone's mentioning the Batman Arkham games because of some of the combat. And look, at this time, people have used that Arkham combat like for a bunch of different games. So you can't necessarily say, oh, the action style beat 'em up with the counter system is exactly like Arkham and they're ripping it off. Not really. It's that's pretty straightforward, and again has been used over and over and over again now. The Yakuza stuff, I think, is mostly the environment interaction in some of these fights, where as you're doing you're doing kind of like the beat 'em up style fighting, you can then grab a person and slam them, I think, into a dumpster or just whatever's around you. People thought of Yakuza with that, but again, that's not really as one-to-one as, say, web swinging. That's the thing that really went viral online. And I will admit, hard to push back on this one because you see the animations, and as soon as I saw this, it's at the end of one of the, I think the trailer they put out the other day, at like the end, you see the main character jumping and swinging around what looks almost like the symbiote suit. So he has stuff coming out of his arm, grabbing onto a building, and he swings and does like the twirls and the flips and stuff, like the acrobatics in the air that look like they're ripped straight out of Spider-Man 1 or 2. And that started to raise some eyebrows online. And I get it because people are already putting them next to each other. Yeah, it looks like the same animations. And this is a bit different than what we've seen before. Like, so for example, Sony is going after that Motirum game, and that doesn't really have anything to do with the gameplay style. It's just the look of the game. So it's when we heard that they had Tencent originally approached Sony and wanted to do a Horizon game and use that Motirum game basically as that Horizon game. They wanted to attach the IP to it. Sony said no. And then here comes this Motirum game, and it looks like, hey, we have Horizon at home. Sony's going after it because of the visual comparison, not because the mechanics in the game, the gameplay, because it plays completely different. In this case, though, it would be more aligned with, did they just take the animation or were heavily inspired by Spider-Man? And then something else came out today that looks like it's ripped straight out of Uncharted 4. And here's the thing, all right? So the idea of having this set piece where the main character is dragging behind a car and running into things, I guess you could make the case of, well, it's like any kind of action movie that we wanted to incorporate into this, but it looks, again, very one-to-one with what we've experienced with Uncharted. And I think the interesting part that people have right now, kind of the view is, wow, they're pulling a lot from Sony. Meanwhile, Sony is pushing this game quite a bit on their own YouTube channel. And in fact, they're garnering millions and millions of views there, showing this off with the PlayStation logo. And oh yeah, here's Spider-Man in the game. Here's Uncharted in the game. And some have even looked at the stuff with, we already know it's kind of comparable to Grand Theft Auto because that's kind of the idea. It's sort of like, the anime Grand Theft Auto. But when they switched characters, that got people pointing out like, wait a minute, it's that same style where it zooms out upwards, moves around the map, finds the person, and it'll drop you in maybe when they're driving or just kind of walking along. And then there was one section where you switch between your character outside of an office building to another character who's sniping. And I went, ooh, that does feel kind of like a scene out of Grand Theft Auto 5. So clearly they liked a few of these games so much they wanted to incorporate just some of the outright scenes and at times, yeah, some of the mechanics and animations directly in. Now, I'm not a lawyer or anything who can tell you if this is something that would be pursued by any of these companies. I do feel like the one that maybe would be the best chance for any of these companies to have a case is probably the Spider-Man swinging, or maybe some of the Uncharted scene. But I think the Spider-Man swinging is probably the one that feels the most egregious. But does Sony really care to go after this game for that? Because here's the thing, Sony benefits a lot from these free-to-play online games. That's where more than half of all revenue comes from on the PlayStation Store. And I think right now they're seeing another one that is going to be very, very lucrative for them. So while I get the egregious nature to the point where everyone is noticing for Spider-Man, does Sony really want to disrupt this game? Because if it comes out, and let's just say it delivers on even half of what they're showing, because they're showing a lot, so where I'm like, ooh, I don't know if that's even possible at this point. But if they deliver on half of this, will Sony care that there is the yank and slam animation from Spider-Man 2 and the symbiote in the game when they're getting millions of dollars for just connecting this game to players in the PlayStation Store? And while I do see many people right now on social media almost tagging Sony like, hey, this company is ripping the game off, the Spider-Man game off and stuff, look at these comparisons, I guess Sony could get involved, but I don't know if they really want to. I think they're pushing it right now, clearly, unless they were caught off guard by what was in that trailer all of a sudden with NetEase and Naked Rain, this studio. I don't know if they care to get in the way of a bunch of money that's about to flow in for this title. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. At this point, I don't really care one way or the other about the copying of the swinging and stuff. I just want to see if this ends up being a legitimate thing, because again, it almost looks too good to be true with this title, but we're still waiting for a release date at this time, so we'll see how all this works out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.